I hope everybody who participates in this election, either as candidates or as their supporters, treats each other with respect, doesn't engage in personal attacks, and keeps in mind what Ronald Reagan famously said in the past, which is never speak ill of a fellow Conservative.
Bob Blackman is going to lead the Conservative Party's 1922 committee, taking over from the retired Sir Graham Brady. He's going to play a key role organising the process for the next leader of the party. This follows the Conservatives' first shadow cabinet meeting, in which Kemi Badenoch criticised Rishi Sunak's election campaign, blaming him for losing many seats. She said it was essential that meetings like this weren't leaked. What she said was then leaked. Well, let's speak to a man who was there. The new leader of the House, Chris Philp, Conservative shadow leader of the House, I should say. Sorry about that. The Conservative MP for Croydon South. How does it feel being kicked out of government, Chris Philp?
Well, I mean, obviously, I was very pleased to be re-elected in my own constituency, Croydon South, somewhat against the odds. But clearly, it's disappointing not to be able to get things done for the country. The reason I came into politics, having been in business before, was to get things done. And obviously, it's much harder to get things done when you're in opposition instead of government. So in that sense, it's disappointing. But that's how democracy works. And we'll now take up our new role, which is to hold the new government to account, to make sure it keeps its promises, to make sure it governs in the national interest, to scrutinise legislation, and do all of those things which oppositions are supposed to do. And of course, I'd rather be in government, but we're democracy, and I accept the result.
Sounds like, perhaps understandably, a pretty tense shadow cabinet meeting yesterday.
Well, those meetings are private, so I don't want to give a commentary on reporting of what may or may not have been said. But, as a party, we're going to obviously have a leadership contest. We're going to debate issues of substance, what went wrong in the past, what we can do better and differently in the future, select a new leader. I hope we do that in a measured way. And by measured, I mean two things. Firstly, I think we shouldn't rush it. There's no need to rush it because there's not going to be an election for quite a while now. So we can take our time to think about it properly. People talk about the 2005 example as a good one, where following that defeat, the party took about 6 months or so to run a selection process that resulted in David Cameron being chosen, who obviously went on to win a couple of general elections. And when I say measured, the second thing I mean is that I hope everybody who participates in this election, either as candidates or as their supporters, treats each other with respect, doesn't engage in personal attacks, and keeps in mind what Ronald Reagan famously said in the past, which is never speak ill of a fellow Conservative.
It's not going very well, is it?
Look, I think feelings obviously run quite high, but I'd like to just ask everybody involved in the process to confine their comments to the issues and debate them in a reflective way.
I've got to ask you, given that, are there any circumstances that you could see putting yourself forward for the leadership of the party?
Well, it's not something I've given thought to be quite honest with you, and the contest hasn't even started. So my main objective is obviously to continue looking after residents in Croydon South and settling into this new job, shadow leader of the House of Commons. So those are my priorities.
That's not quite a no, though, is it?
Well, it's not something I'm currently actively pursuing.
Okay. Do you know who the leaker was yesterday? You're going to do something about it?
Well, that's a matter for the leader. No, I don't know who it was, and I'm sure it's up to the leader's office to decide if they want to pursue that any further.
But your recommendation would then presumably be that at this year's Conservative Party conference, round about the beginning of October, there would not be a new leader in place or even a hustings for the new leader. It would simply be a kind of time for reflection.
Well, my own personal view is that it would not be appropriate to have a new leader in place by party conference. That would be too soon. I think it is possible that the party conference could provide a platform for candidates to demonstrate what they can do. Now, back in 2005, if I recall correctly, I may be misremembering, but I think at that point there were two candidates left in the process, which then were David Cameron and David Davis, although I may have misremembered. You could, of course, have a larger number of candidates showcasing what they can do.
Yeah, that's right. It was those two, yeah.
Yeah, but so you could, of course, have a slightly larger number of candidates showcasing. But I think the party conference should be an opportunity to do that, to test the various candidates on a big stage, to see how they perform, because the leader of the opposition is someone who needs to be able to perform on those big stages, and it's a good opportunity to put the various candidates who may emerge to the test.
So that would turn it into effectively a hustings.
Yeah, that's right. It could do. Yes, that's right. And there are obviously different permutations. You could have two candidates. You could have more than two candidates. But yeah, in essence, I think it is an opportunity to put the contenders through their paces. Yes.
Right. And what is your advice to the party after this very, very bad defeat in terms of seats and vote share? What do you think the Conservative Party needs to do to put itself back on the road to a return to power?
Well, I think there needs to be, first of all, humility. It wasn't that the public got it wrong, it's that we got it wrong in government, and we need to, I think, just humbly, with humility, acknowledge and accept that as a starting point. I think my own analysis is that the principles we were defending and promoting were broadly good principles: low taxation, controlling immigration, better public services. The problem was we didn't deliver those as well as we should have done, and we will therefore, in the coming months and frankly years, develop a very clear description of what we're going to do differently in the future to address those issues. But then we shouldn't be ditching our principles. They are the right principles: low tax, personal responsibility, enterprise and entrepreneurship, controlling our borders, responsive and accountable public services. Those principles are the right ones, but we need to come up with credible plans for delivering those principles in practice. Now, because we've been in government in the past, and because people will say, well, the public will be skeptical about what we say, we're going to have to be quite detailed and specific in the future. I don't mean the next few weeks, I mean over the next few months and the next few years, about how we're going to deliver those principles in practice, because without that level of detail and credibility, we'll struggle to get a hearing.
Chris Philp, thank you very much indeed. And I should have said congratulations on your re-election as Conservative MP for Croydon South.
Thank you.